What is up, y'all? This is JT. I'm on a different phone now, so hopefully this looks okay. There's stabilization on here. It's terrible. But anyways, this is the progress so far on the deck. And the reason why I was halted is I had to get new wood and set it out and let it somewhat dry. Because if I don't let it dry a little bit, as you can see, it's a completely different color. If it doesn't dry out a little bit, then when you go to put these in, the gaps will become huge, and as you can see, I'm making the gaps very tight. And that's kind of like, you know, a preference thing really on the gaps. You have to have a gap, because as you can see, if you don't have a gap, all this crap's gonna get stuck in here. So I put them about a 30-second apart, and as you can see, the gravel and stuff easily gets stuck in there, which I don't even know how the gravel got up here. But anyways, one thing that I did that a lot of people don't do is, like in this situation here where I've got this joint, what I did was took my router and did a nice little round over, and as you can see, when it comes together, it looks really nice. And there is a water drip edge right here. There's a little gap, you can see, where the water can drip out. And that's how I'm going to do the rest of them. So basically, I measure. I cut one end of the board, always burn the factory edge off, because it's never straight. Then I measure the board, cut the board, make sure it fits. If it fits perfect, then I route it, and then I start putting it down. And when you're putting it down, there's a little trick that I learned on a construction site. You got these little, you just cut yourself little scrap triangles. And sometimes it's better to cut some of the ends off, like I did on this one, because you'll know when you start to use these. But what you do is you screw one down, and then you take this one and you just hammer it, and the more you hammer it, it pushes your board in. So what you do on this type of situation is you start at one end with the curve going out, away from your board, and always start at the tightest corner. I usually start on this end and work my way back. It's just my preference, I guess, because the way I set my triangle up, as you can see, it's a hammer this direction triangle. So if I need to push this end in, I'd have to make another one that goes the other way, or flip it over and switch the screws around. So I just went ahead and stuck to a plan, and I'm working with it. So this is all I got done before I ran out of wood. Then we went and got some new wood. I ended up getting one piece that was actually broken straight from Home Depot, and I don't know how I didn't see it. But if this top is decent enough to use, which it's decent, it's just got this little kind of like a knot that got knocked out. It's not actually that bad, but the bottom of it is terrible. So depending on where that falls, I don't know. I might just take this back because it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's cracked all the way through. But yeah, I got the whole banding all the way around done. You can't see this side. Stairs are done and partially routed. But as you can see, if you route them when they're in place, you don't get a uniform route or a uniform cut. And then this side, it looks like I forgot to even do. So we'll get that done. But yeah, we'll see how far I can get today. I don't know what time it is right now. I can't see the clock. But I gotta get my saw set up. Unfortunately, this truck is in the way. And I do have the keys, so that's cool. And that's about it for now. It's looking pretty good. It's gonna look amazing when it's done. took a lot of work, a lot of extra work, because of the fact that the person who started before me actually, they built it completely out of square. It was like situated like this, and it was all janked up, and they cut all the boards too short. All the joists were cut too short, so I actually had to switch them and go the other way, which was a real pain. But I kind of got it situated now. This stair is solid as a rock, and it's routed on this edge, and I routed up until you reach your base, and that's as far as you can really go. If I need to or want to, I can pull this board out and hopefully hammer it back in, because these are in tight, very tight. And as you can see all my pencil markings where I marked where the stairs were gonna go. I actually was gonna make the stairs a little bit bigger, but I forgot when I was cutting the wood, and I made them 4 foot. I think this is a 4 foot stair. It's supposed to be 52 inches, and this is an 8 foot stair. And this took some work, some rototilling, some digging, and there is concrete. There's concrete footings buried under this muck. Gee whiz, the rain really did a number on it. Rain, snowed, but the deck's solid as a rock. I mean, it ain't going nowhere for many years. I did, the guy that started the deck actually started with Phillips screws that didn't have a long enough without the thread on it. I can show you the screws. See, they don't have, this is a 1 inch thick board, and where the non-threads are, where there's no threads, needs to be thicker. So I've actually gotten different screws for that, and they have about a 1 inch, 3 inch screw with a 1 inch basically bare part with no threads. I don't know what that's called, but that's going to help sink the boards down and keep them down. The T25 deck mate type screws, they do tend to corrode and break, but they are fantastic for driving in. No stripping, no galling them out, and they are amazing for putting these down. So basically that's it, and by looking at these boards I can already tell they're not weathered out enough, and this could be an issue. But underneath there's I believe three or four that have been weathered, except now they're under about 300 to 400 pounds of wood. So that looks fun. Look, it's Briggs from way back in the day. So I guess we'll grab the rigid saw and stand and we'll get started. The tools I use when it comes to building now, I got this set right here at a pawn shop for cheap, super cheap, and it came with 2 4-amp hour batteries. I got 1 4-amp hour battery and this Impact. It'll last all day. The 3-amp hour batteries, they suck. They're terrible, so I got a handful of them with me just to keep up with that 1 4-amp hour. And this is actually the foam that I'm on right now. I've got my rigid octane trim router set up. Well, it's not set up yet, but I usually do just a round over, get it set up nice. For the round over, I have to match it as best I can, because whenever you take the bit out and change the depth on it, you gotta somehow match it, and then we'll get on that. But enough explanation. I gotta get to work. Start by moving this truck out of my way, and then we'll see. One thing you gotta keep an eye on is you measure the dimensions of your wood. Okay, so they have shrunk, because last time I measured this board, it was about 5 and a little over 5/8. As you can see, it's right over 5.5. Now this one right here is shrunk. It's at 5.5. 5.5 is really what you're looking for. I bet this one is shrunk because it's actually on top. And no, I'm wrong. This one's not shrunk. This one's actually over 5 5/8. So, gee whiz. So I guess what I'll do is pick up and feel. You can tell the more dry they are. You can pick it up and you can feel, because when they're not dry, they're actually pretty heavy, and that's how you can tell. And I do believe that some of these out of the stack are more dry. You can kind of tell by the color, like a couple of these are dry, a couple of those are dry. So really, I'm gonna have to hand pick them, and this is gonna be such a pain, and it's gonna slow down the process because the wood didn't have the correct weather to dry out. Because as soon as I got it, it got cold, and then it rained, and then it snowed twice. And yeah, so that's basically what I'm working with now. Otherwise, this would already be done, and I'd be showing you the final product. Yeah, but we'll get back to that. What is up again? This is JT. This is what I want to show you. This board is pretty acceptable right here, so I'll probably use that one. As you can see, this one's about, it's 5 5/8 or a little bit bigger. This one's not quite 5 5/8, so it's getting drier. This one is usable, so it's about 5 1/2. 5 1/2 is what you're looking for. This one looks good. Yeah, that one's good. 5 1/2. But I wanted to show you some of these that aren't. Look at this one. It's over 5 5/8. This one's good, and I've been marking them. Basically, I measure them. That one's a little too big, and this one's too big, but this one I measured, and it seems right there, 5 1/2. Gap wouldn't get too big, so I marked an X on it. 5 1/2. And then this one is 5 3/4. That's crazy. So these that are sitting on top over here, I believe they were, oh, that one's not too bad. It's a little over, just a little over 5 1/2. This one might be usable. This one's almost 5 3/4. And also this one's 5 3/4. So these two are too wet. You can tell when you pick them up, they're pretty heavy. So that's what I'm dealing with.